Hello, Mustang fans, and welcome to this very special on-the-road edition of the Mustang Owners Podcast. I'm your host, John Clora, along with my co-host, Mike Ray, and today we're in Juneau, Wisconsin, at none other than Perkins Restorations, and we have with us Bob Perkins himself, the man, the myth, and Mike, and really in the Mustang hobby, the legend.
An icon.
An icon. Bob, thank you so much for letting us break into your place and hang out with you for a few minutes.
You're welcome. Thank you.
No, if you haven't paid any attention and you're maybe new to the hobby, you don't know Bob Perkins, that means you don't know anything about Mustangs. Because Bob, you've been following this hobby since you were a kid, but how did you get into, first of all, the Mustang world and then winding up being one of the premier restoration shops in all of Mustang land?
Well, it was kind of a hobby just turned into a job. I guess I started when I was in college. I was at Drake University on a track scholarship, and every morning we had to run 4 miles before we got breakfast. And we had to go 2 miles out to Waveland Golf Course and back. And right at the turnaround point, there was a Grabber Orange 70 Boss 302. This was in 1971. And if we hit them just right, we'd get them at the red light and get them to spin the tires. And when I saw that car, I just said, that's the car that I've got to have. And Grabber Orange is always stuck in my mind as my favorite Boss color. And that's kind of what got me rolling. And then that summer when I came home, I got a 69 Mach 1 Cobra Jet car that I drove the rest of the 3 years in college. And the first year I was there, I had a Volkswagen, but the coach said the freshmen weren't allowed to park on campus. He just didn't want us driving home.
Yeah.
So so I drove that Mach 1 through college for 3 years, and that kind of got me rolling.
Oh, man. Can you imagine starting your life out with a Cobra Jet Mach 1, especially Mike the 69? Mike, you always said about Mustang, it seems that people that get into this hobby, it happens with a love at first sight story.
Yeah, usually as soon as you see, like I said, my story always, that I seen the coupe, right?
Yeah.
And the coupe's not one of my favorite cars, but that's the one that got me attracted to it, and I wanted to be involved with Mustang. And growing up in Dearborn, I really had no other choice,
Yeah,
right? Ford headquarters in my background.
You may have seen a few rolling up and down.
Yeah.
But so, Bob, you fall in love with this car. First of all, driving a Cobra Jet 69 Mach is probably, in my opinion, the street man's love of Mustang begins there. Some guys couldn't afford Shelbys, but the Mach 1, especially with the Cobra Jet. So you were living the dream. But to go from there and to doing what you've done in the hobby and understanding the value of maybe these cars were so many, dime a dozen in the 60s, you could buy a Mustang for a few $100s, and now they're prized possessions. What got you into the restoration side of it?
Well, when I drove that Mach 1, I had to drive it in the winter, and in the summer I worked for my dad's company at Service Painting, so I was making pretty good money. We were doing high level sandblasting and stuff on big buildings, so I had quite a bit of spending money for a kid. And I was buying all these parts from the local Ford dealer for that Mustang. I bought a new shaker setup, which I still have. I never use it. It's still in the box. Wow. I had new doors. I bought everything that I thought was going to deteriorate on that car. Like, that was the only one I was ever going to find, And I used it for everything. I can remember when I was a sophomore in college, I went deer hunting. I got my first little buck. He was a little 8-pointer. And in Wisconsin, you have to have the head hanging out of the vehicle. Oh. The head was hanging out of the back of my Mach 1.
Yeah, that's what we need a picture of.
Yeah, I've got an old Polaroid of that little buck. And that was my first deer I shot. And I was so proud of that deer to get home, show my dad. My dad was a big hunter. And so I used that car for everything. And then driving back from Milwaukee to Des Moines, I had to change points usually once every trip. Yeah. I knew where the Ford dealers were on the way home.
All the way, yeah.
Yeah, and so I learned how to work on the car just by having to drive the thing and maintain it. And then when I graduated from college, I got a teaching job, and I was still car crazy on the side. And then after I went to the first Mustang Club of America National with my 70 Boss 302, that got me hooked, and I had people asking me if I could detail their cars and work on their cars. And when I decided in 1981 to do that full time, my dad gave me a hard time. He says, "You're going to give up that teaching job for
Playing with cars?
Yeah.
playing with cars. He would call them junkyard fugitives. That was my dad. He was a old hard-nosed union guy that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you have the best job in the world, don't give it up for them old cars. But that's kind of how I got into it. And I always liked authenticity on stuff. And I guess the first Shelby meet I went to over in Detroit, I saw Lamar Allen's 68 KR, and it had original tires, and he had all the little paint OK stamps on the inner fenders and stuff. And I looked at that thing and I said, that's the way to go. I said, that is really cool. So I just started studying all that stuff. And then I decided that the best cars to get were the ones that were unmodified. And when you're a kid, everybody, you know, we put headers on that Mach 1, and believe it or not, in the parking lot at the Drake University. And I thought for about a week the car would never run again. That's hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, we had a lot of fun with that car. And so just one thing turned into another. And then as I got more involved with it, and then with the concourse stuff and the Mustang Club, you know, they got pretty picky with details and things like that. And then Osborne talked me into eventually being the head judge for authenticity. And a lot of the older guys in the club didn't really like a younger guy.
Knowing more than they did?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, and you got to remember back then, too, the Mustang Club of America was basically a southeastern Wisconsin club, or Georgia club, not Wisconsin.
Georgia, yeah. Southeastern US.
Yeah, and so I was Yankee Bob, you know, so the old timers, they didn't like Yankee Bob telling them how to restore their cars.
Well, you know, Mike, you have to admit that Bob learned this with his hands. By taking a car apart and putting it back together, you kind of know, you know, that's learned knowledge, as opposed to book knowledge, or maybe looking at a bunch of cars. It's one thing to look at them, Bob. It's a whole other thing to take them apart and put them back together.
Oh, yeah, and I learned from a very good paint and body guy in Oconomowoc, Elmer Fritz, and he owned Oconomowoc Body Work, and he's still probably one of the best body guys I've ever seen. Now, his painting wasn't the greatest, but his body work was great, and I learned from him working there part-time in the summers in college, too. And so that kind of helped with the learning how to do the basics on paint and body work.
Well, Mike, you know, we always talk about the role of a club in the hobby. And when Bob's business, he started meeting people that collect Mustangs. He liked the authentic part of it. The club played a big role in having people take, which were really bread and butter cars. Millions of these cars have been sold, and taking them and trying to, what's the word you guys use in your mission statement? Preservation?
Preservation, yeah.
How big of a thing, Mike, do you see it now? I know a lot of kids coming in, they're buying S187s, S550s. I don't think they're really looking towards keeping all their stuff. I think the last group that I recall, maybe the high-end cars like a GT350 or a Shelby, or maybe some of the SVTs, people keep the paperwork. But nowadays, do you see that still happening, Bob?
You know, I think it's the 40 to 50-year-olds now who can actually afford to do a restoration on something on a car that they always dreamed of. You know, they always wanted to buy one, but it was always a junker or whatever. It needed a full restoration. They could never afford that in their jobs and their lifestyles at that time. And now I think people are at the point where, hey, I got some play money. Let me get a toy that I always wanted. And, you know, they'll get whatever it is, bring it to Bob, and he'll make it look like one of these beauties in here.
So, Bob, you kind of specialize in like the first-gen 65 to 73s, and then from then on, I mean, do you touch any other cars, second gens, Fox bodies, anything?
No, I haven't. I just pretty much collected parts and memorabilia for the first generation, and then, the last 20 years, pretty much all we've worked on is boss cars.
Mike, you were saying, you know, when he was growing up that era, you were looking at the 70s. He liked the Fox bodies. The problem with the Fox bodies being hot now, Bob, is that none of those cars, they're all been modified. It's hard to find an
98%,
unmolested,
yeah.
it's been hard to find an unmolested Fox body. Right. Guys like Dennis Carpenter, you know, a few guys, Dave Wasenda used to have a great collection of those. But there are a few people that see the value in keeping those cars original because right now, I think the difference between you and most of the other people I know restoring Mustangs is you like to use original stuff, and I know it has to be the hardest thing you do when you do a restoration. How hard is it to find NOS parts?
Well, when I was looking for the stuff in the early 80s, it wasn't that hard.
Let's say back then it was a lot easier and cheaper.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like with the Fox body era, Ford dealers didn't have to stock parts like they did back in the 60s because they, eventually when the internet came, that ended all obsolescence because they could get the parts in a day and a half, 2 days, so they didn't have to stock stuff. Like most of the stuff that I found, every dealer, that was my way of getting behind the counter in the Ford garage. I would always ask, I'd like to buy your obsolete belts and hoses, because every dealer had Autolite or Rotunda belts and hoses.
yeah.
So if they said they didn't have any and they're hanging right above our heads in front of the counter, they're lying. So that would get me behind the counter, and then I'd say, well, can I look at your spark plug wires? And then after 5 minutes, they get tired of watching me, and they just say, just go and pick out what you want. And, in the 90s, when we're talking about the newer Mustangs, those parts weren't on the shelf anymore. And because you could get them from the dealership, they could order them, get them in a few days.
Yeah, they would call, they don't have the part in stock, but they'll get it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's kind of still how it is today. Most of the stuff we can get within 24 hours.
Well, where your wife works, a big distribution center, don't a dealer call that and the next day they ship it out to them?
Oh, yeah, it's usually they put the order in, and it's called the hubs and that, and if it's
Big
available
hubs,
right now,
parts
usually
hub?
within 24 hours you'll have it.
Well, no, so Bob, before we want to walk around and even see what some of your wonderful things you have here, before we get to that, a lot of questions we get here on the Mustang Owners Podcast, and we appreciate you guys sending those questions in either the jclarkcarsandcontext.com or clubhub@ford.com. However you send us your question, we appreciate it. Now we got an expert can answer this. Today, a lot of people are restoring their own Mustangs, early and first gens. They can buy Dynacorn fenders. They can buy a lot of parts. Almost everything's reproduced for these cars, they tell me. A lot of it's from China, and a lot of it is not good. Do you find that the reproduction parts today are just not what they were even just 10 years ago?
Well, I don't fool with the reproduction parts too much.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. He doesn't use that stuff.
But I can tell you, the sheet metal, I hear from other people that it doesn't fit as good. The gauge of the metal usually isn't the same. And like quarter panels to original wheel houses, the shape on the bottoms isn't quite the same, so you have to alter stuff. But now there are some reproduction parts that are right up there with Ford quality. And one example is the exhaust, the Scott Fuller exhaust systems. They're day-coated, they're done, they're mandrel bent just like the stuff from Arvin, and that's outstanding stuff. And we do use some of that type of stuff. But on the sheet metal stuff, I just say good luck. I mean, if you don't have original sheet metal, it's tough. And we've been blessed where we get the best of the best cars to work on, so we rarely have to work with any rust.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking for your first gen Mustang, maybe your 70 Boss, you want to fix it up, and you want to slap 500 pounds of Bondo in it, don't come to Perkins Restoration, because Bob will not be interested.
Bob, some of the customers who are doing the restorations, do they have their own parts when they come here for it, or do you try to find them and source them?
Both. We've had people that have collected parts for, I've got a guy now in Utah, he's been collecting parts for a Hypo convertible for 10 years. And he's got 3 of everything. And he was buying parts before he got the car from the original owner, but it was promised to him. So he has plenty of parts. But most of the time when the cars come, they're fairly complete, and then we have to, supply like electrical stuff, the used up stuff, but they usually have original upholstery and carpet that we can reuse because they're really good cars.
Wow,
yeah, that's
that
great.
doesn't happen. And there's another thing that Bob kind of specializes in. It's if you get into the car restoration business, or you've ever tried to do some restoring of your own Mustang by yourself, you realize that there's a certain level of skill involved, and different skills involve mechanical or body and paint. And sometimes the guys that are good at mechanical are not good at body and paint, and vice versa. But in this day and age, these guys that work with Bob, they're not just your typical, I'm going to learn while I work at Bob's shop. These guys you've employed for many years are kind of like experts or artists.
Yeah, they are, and that's why we've never had more than 3 employees, because it's hard to find more than 3 guys that are capable of doing what we're type of work we're trying to do. And you get a guy out of a body shop, and they're on a time clock. They got to meet a standard, and you can't slow them down. The guy that I had for years, Tim Lair, for a lot of the body work, he was Mr. Slow, but boy, he was good. And he had the right mentality where I get a little frustrated. I've got other things. I love to do the painting of the car and stuff, but like straightening and body work and stuff like that was Tim's.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we take, Mike, we can
let's
start
do
from,
it.
we know what your love is. We can tell from the signs that are in here and where you started your love. But obviously, the Boss 302 kind of changed the world for Ford. We didn't ask Mr. Shelby to go out and race anymore. Ford wanted to have their own car. Mike was lucky enough to know John Graffelman after he found the Shinoda Boss prototype, and he brought it to
You brought the Mustang memories.
Memories, and was it
unveil
when
there,
you had
and
it?
Then in the 50th at Dearborn, we unveiled it after we restored it.
Well, there was some when he brought it to the Product Development Center show,
Yeah.
when Mike had it there. He was saying, I'm gonna leave this dirt in it. I'm gonna leave it the way it was." And then so many people, I think, Mike talked to him and said, "No, John, try to restore that
Yeah.
the way that Larry Shinoda had it."
Yeah.
And he did. Did he ever talk with you about getting that car restored?
Oh yeah, the car was here for a while.
Oh, wow.
I think we detailed the motor, and he took some pictures out in front of the big Ford sign where it was on the trailer, and then Phil Schultz, who's local here
Yeah.
over in Hartford, he actually did most of the work on the car. And when the car was done, when it first went to the McCacken show, they picked it up here in my driveway.
Oh, wow, very
See,
cool. So I didn't even know that.
We didn't know
Yeah.
that. I bet you didn't know that. That's why you're listening and watching.
I know John real well.
Yeah.
And,
Great family.
Yeah.
Although I know him from, he had, was it Montegos he was into, or?
Cyclones and
Yeah,
stuff.
Cyclones,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Cyclones, yeah.
He loved his Cyclone spoilers on, but so let's
He
take,
still has one too, I believe.
why don't you walk us through some of your cars, and let's take a look at starting at the beginning. Of course, you had to start with the Boss 302, didn't you?
Yes, that Boss 302 there, the grabber orange one, I got that in 1981. That car has 1,553 original miles on it. And
Wow.
So it's not broken in yet.
well, it's about as broken as it'll get.
Right.
So it's probably my favorite car, and that was the car that kind of put us on the map for undercarriage detailing. And that Jerry Heasey was here, and we did the undercarriage detailing, and that kind of was the start of the change of total restorations on the Mustangs.
Was anything from Ford, like photo-wise, available? What his original undercarriage looked like? What kind of markings were there, and what they meant? How would you get that information?
Primarily from looking at unrestored cars like this car, where it's you just duplicate all the original marks when you take them off, and take pictures of that stuff. And back in the early 80s, that was tough because we didn't have digital camera. We didn't even have cell phones.
That's
and so it was handwritten notes and a lot of Polaroids and having good cars to look at.
So did you have to talk to some of the people on the line and decipher what those numbers and letters meant, the codes that they were writing on there?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. I did meet a lot of people back in the early day that were assembly line workers. And, I hung out in Detroit a lot with Ron Charney and those guys, the parts guys back in the day, and we went to some of the suppliers and the nut and bolt places, Acme Nut and Bolt there in Detroit, and we kind of helped get Max at AMK set up with his hardware business, and we got the Bud Moore buyout, which was one of the best deals we ever found as far as fasteners and cool Boss parts, and Jackie Jones and I were in on that deal. And it's just research from looking at great unrestored cars.
That's the value, Mike, of some people that do buy a new Mustang and put it away or don't beat the living Jesus out of it. And the guys like Bob Perkins will come and say, "Hey, can I look at this before you take it apart, the way it was from the factory?" Of course, one of Mike's favorite cars
My dream car.
is Boss 429s. He says, if when he does win the lottery.
Yeah, when? Not
And
if.
I can tell you this, folks, if you're a regular listener to the podcast and you do play the lottery, if you do win, could you just send us some money? Because we got to make sure that Mike has a Boss 9. And many of the collectors, they've become unattainium. They're so expensive, but to find one in Grabber Orange,
Yeah, the grab orange color really pops, doesn't it?
I mean, there's just something about it. And then the Boss 9 is its own beast with the whole history of those cars being at CarCraft and what Ford had to go through to get that motor in those cars. Do you consider that the holy grail of all Mustangs?
I do. I'm not sure everybody.
Sorry, Shelby guys,
Yeah, I say, who doesn't? That's
this
a
is a
real
Ford.
question.
This was a Ford product, wasn't a Shelby product.
Right. As far as my taste is, that's my favorite also. I mean, I think it's the holy grail of the Mustang world, but I still like Boss 302s
Oh, yeah.
probably
Oh,
the best.
yeah.
Different personalities when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
drive them,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a beast to drive, and that's more of a race car for the street, you know.
Yeah.
Different personalities, but the fact that you have two of these and Grabber Orange.
Yeah, both in Grabber Orange. So
Obviously,
cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this car too, that car only has 1,608 original miles, so the two together, the same color, both low mileage original examples, that's why they got on the performance corner.
Yeah, it's funny,
This is kind of my favorite corner of the showroom with all the
Yeah, Bob
69,
sleeps here
70.
sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so there's a sign back there, the performance corner. And of course, when you walk into a dealership and you have the hot cars or some parts, because some dealers would do parts walls. You know, I've been writing my column for Mustang Times. I've passed 200 columns, and I used to always call it the Ford Performance Corner,
Yep.
because and people don't realize that whole vernacular goes back when these cars first came out, but. Besides the fact that your favorite bosses, you also have a boss that nobody else has. And people thought the boss era ended with this body style. But how in the heck did we come up with the one and only 71? I mean, there are people that do prototypes, and we know that Ford messed with stuff, but they didn't build stuff. How did you get this one?
well, that's the 71 Boss 302. That's the only one that was actually built. It was built on the first day of production. According to Kevin Marty, 7 were scheduled to be built on the first day of production. And something happened where Ford decided that they were going to change the Boss 302 to the Boss 351 in mid-November because Chevrolet was going to put the 350 LT1 motor in the Z28. And Ford, GM, and Chrysler disbanded the Trans Am series, so they didn't really need a solid lifter 302 motor anymore.
See, some of you were asking about this car. It wasn't because they built a Boss 302 71 and they ran out of Boss 302s. No, as Bob just told you, the 351 became a more marketable, a more sensible car to make a Boss out of, and that's why it became 351. But how did this get out?
Well, it was built on the first day of production because it was scheduled to go to the Ford new car introduction at the out in Vegas.
Okay.
So it had to go. They had to have a hot rod Mustang out there. So they finished that car and shipped it. I've got all. Kevin did the chronological time of when it was built and when it got there and all the stuff they had to do to get it there. And then after the show, they changed the lettering on the car from 302 to 351, and you could see where they peeled off the 02 and
No
hand
way.
painted the 51.
No way.
And it's in all the Boss 351 photos for promoting the new
Yeah.
Boss 351. And there's even an invoice where it's been retitled as a Boss 351.
No way.
And I can't say for sure, but Kevin and I have both come to the conclusion they probably left the hood closed
Yeah.
and just did the lettering. It was just a
Yeah, because nobody
promotional
would
thing.
know, yeah.
Right. We don't know that, but we do have pictures with the Boss 302 motor in it, so we know they did have a Boss 302 motor in it.
So here they make a decision before the car goes out, and they're going to change it to a Boss 351, and then they have this with a 302 in it.
Yeah.
Well, you got to use what you got because
Yeah.
you're at the show, you're out of time, right?
Yeah.
We-
How
we-
did it end up here?
Well, the car actually ended up on eBay about
No
12
way.
years ago.
Were you just randomly searching?
No, I
No?
didn't find it. Andy Hack down in Janesville, which is less than an hour from here, he saw the car, and he was about my age, maybe a year older, and he remembered pictures of this car with the flat hood and
Yeah.
the way it was painted. And he took a chance, and he bought that thing on eBay, and it came back to Wisconsin, and then he contacted Kevin, and Kevin Marty couldn't find the paperwork on the car because Lois Eminger had all those invoices
she
back
did.
then.
Well, yeah.
And she was looking for the James Bond car. That was a first day production car. Everything was out of order. And about 6 months later, he called back and he says, Mr. Hack, you have found something that's pretty unique. And he told him what he had. And then he also sent me all the paperwork on it. He says, this guy's right in your backyard, Bob. You need to get to know him.
Yeah.
And so we just kept in contact for about, 10 years. He'd come up here and look at stuff. And I'd tell him, when I was out hunting Ford parts, I would find all this 71 Boss 302 stuff, and I didn't think they ever made a car. But that stuff was already in the system because they planned on building
Yeah.
these just like they were going to be a Boss
And you got to
351.
make that ahead of the car.
Right, so that stuff was already in the program, all the stickers and decals. You look at the old books, they show the stripe kits for the Boss 302. So that stuff was all in production. So I had extra manifolds. I had like 7 H-pipes. I'd get home and I'd say, well, I hope this is a Boss 351. It'd be a Boss 302 I'll never be able to use.
No, there's only one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of cool parts, and then, he had a Boss 351, Andy did, and he's an attorney, and really sharp guy, and he researched, he gave me a book this thick with all the stuff, the research he did on it, so we knew exactly what the car was, and I said, I'd like to have the car if you don't want to have me restore it for you,
Right.
but I got to have one factory photo of a Boss 302 motor in it, so that
Yeah.
just in my mind,
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
yeah,
they actually had
That's
that
like-
motor in the car. And when we got that, he says, well, now the price went up, but I said, well, then you have to put me on a payment plan. He said, we can do that. So,
good. Well-
so I think he's happy that I got the car because one of his friends was up here last week, and I said, does Andy have any remorse? And he's in Florida most of the time now, and he says, no, he's glad you got the car and that it got finished
Good.
right. So that made me feel good.
Yeah, one of
Perkins
the right
Restoration is the right place for this one-off car, but, I got to tell you, Bob, the stuff, the stories behind these cars, Mike, what do we always say?
Yeah.
Everyone's got,
A Mustang story.
and now, really, it's getting to the point where every Mustang's got a story,
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
every person has a.
And these are very rare stories
it-
that you can only hear here.
And this was the primary car at the Mach show just a couple years ago. You had a big poster. You were all over Chicago with the billboards, and if you wanted to, this car really had a very, very popular public introduction. Well, you couldn't help but notice, Bob, that you've got a real penchant for 428 Cobra Jets, and people usually associate, I've been a Cobra Jet and a Mach 1, but it's very rare to see a Cobra Jet either in a coupe or convertible. How did you come across? This thing is absolutely stunning. I love the paint and a shaker. I mean, not a typical combination you'd see
I
for
was just
convertible.
gonna say, I don't think I've ever seen that combination ever with that color in the top.
How did this come about?
Well, it was actually a friend of mine's, Bob Brisboy out in Massachusetts, got the car and restored it, or had Randy Delicios restore it. And then he brought it out here for us to do some detailing and put some new old stock parts on it, date-coded stuff. And then another friend of mine, Lester Quam, ended up with the car. And when he decided he was going to sell the car, I traded him back. I got the car then. And then when I got the car, I put the new old stock exhaust on it and
Of course you do.
the new original tires. And
Glass.
yeah, but it's really a nice car. It's a California car. And what's kind of neat on the history, it was sold new to Ford Philco in '69 as a lease vehicle, I guess is what it was. And in '69, Philco Electronics put Apollo on the moon.
That's right. These
So
guys
that's kind of a cool connection that people don't realize. Ford Philco radios and all that stuff, it's all kind of tied together. So this car is pretty loaded up, tinted glass power top, AM, FM. It's a loaded up deluxe interior car. And,
It literally looks better than it did on the showroom floor, honestly.
well, that's not one of our paint jobs, it's a base coat, clear coat. It's a beautiful paint
Oh,
job.
my
but
God.
It's just, it's too nice to do over.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't touch it.
They only made 24-speed Cobra Jet convertibles, according to Kevin, and only 6 of them were GTs, so it's in the rare area of Mustang production.
Now that I think about that, John, I don't know if I've ever seen one now. You
No,
just said that.
I mean, to see this car, oh my. Oh. And you know what? Driving around in a luxury convertible, that's kind of cool, but why not have all the power why not have both? Why, you don't have to have a performance car without giving up luxury.
Yeah.
But,
The big thing is it's a 4-speed.
oh, really?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what really makes that car special is being a 4-speed. That gets it down to six of the convertibles.
Wow. And
Well,
champagne gold.
Yeah,
That's
obviously there was a lot of automatics. But this, now when I talk about, everybody loves the low mileage cars, but this is more of a car that, the colors that you've picking out, these cars, this color was tough to find back then. And when you find someone with everybody had red or black, right? And was the colors part of the thing that attracted you to these cars?
No, on this car, it was just the mileage on it. This is one of the cars that came out of the collection in Nebraska, where he had 10 cars. He put up a new vehicle every year.
Oh, okay.
And there was 3 Mustangs, and all the cars in the collection had between 5 and 50 miles on them. They drive them around the block once in a while, so they'd keep everything working. But that car there has 52 miles on it. It's never been dealer prepped. It's never had the antenna put on it, never been titled.
No
It's just it's a brand new car. The plastic's still on the steering wheel. And it's a 351 Windsor 4-barrel. And most of the cars that were in the collection were black with red interior, like you said.
Yeah, that's what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Indian Fire was different, and the other car that came out of there is the little coupe, and there again, it's black with red interior. Oh my God! So
Wow.
the Indian Fire is different. I mean, I like it.
I only see a couple. One guy just purchased one, I remember, at the Iola Old Car Festival. It was a pretty banged up one. He bought it because it was Indian Fire. He said there was always, everybody had the Arrest Me Red 69s, but Mike, if you ever wanted a brand new non-dealer prep 69, you didn't think they existed, Bob Perkins got one.
It's incredible.
And when you talk about how do you detail a car, this is the perfect example of a Dearborn 69 Mustang, and they're not all the same, but it gives you a general guideline as to the way that things were assembled and the quality of the workmanship and the overspray patterns and things like that. So
The stuff Ford did at the factory to make sure they weren't perfect.
yeah, this is one of the best examples of being an untouched car that I've seen.
Now you guys can see why Bob Perkins became the guy that you come to answers about originality, and why when you have cars like this with this, these are brand new cars, you don't get to go back 40, 50 years and see what the cars look like unless you have something like this. And then once you start changing that, you've changed the way they were built, and you'll never see that again. So this is why he was been judging things, and he was always asked to answer these questions, find out information. You come to Bob because Bob has that walking knowledge of this stuff, and I can go look at it and tell you that's exactly the way Ford made it. But you seem to have a penchant for the 69s and 70s. Of course, Mach 1s, that was my favorite car. People kind of labeled me as the Mustang 2 guy, only because I wound up finally getting my first Mustang as a second gen. But the 69 Mach, Shaker, what's the story on this one, Bob?
That's an original paint, 13,000 mile, 430 drag pack car. Wow. And that's really a untouched car that's really great condition for being a drag pack car.
Yeah, usually driven hard, put away wet, and thrown in the garage till the weekend, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's just gorgeous.
So you're kind of known in your collection for having the Gasser or How George, and everybody loved to come see those cars. And how did you get involved in chasing down some really? I know you had a lot of experience with the drag team cars. So how did that relationship have with those drag team guys? Because they were not original cars; they were all one-offs.
Right. Well, the Hubert Platt Camera Mustang, I had a chance to get that back in the early 80s, and I can remember when I was in high school, my dad took me to the dealership in Milwaukee, and they had a Ford drag team display there at Northwestern Ford. And one of those cars was there, and they did a couple burnouts in the parking lot, and they handed out the press kits and things like that. I don't know if it was the Cobra Jet car or the camera car. I wouldn't have known the difference back then. I don't think maybe I was like in 8th grade, but I didn't know the difference, but I sure thought it was cool.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So Mike, do they do burnouts at Gorno Ford when you get a Shelby? Or
No, but I do remember hearing the first time I heard a Cobra Jet start up at the delivery day at Flat Rock, when they started that thing up, how loud that was, and it just lit up the entire building.
There's something, so it wasn't just the beauty of hearing these cars too and seeing how their performance. Did that have something to do with why they made what were these called, the going things?
Going thing,
Going
right?
thing, yeah.
Yeah, there's the going thing edition out there, and these guys. We had a couple of those in the Ford display we had at McCacken with the drag team there, and we'd always kind of joke that the Platt car is the real going thing.
That's right. Well, actually, we do have upcoming episode of the Mustang Owners Podcast with the Going Thing owner. And he said when he got the car, people thought he did that himself. They had no idea that's not a homemade thing. They actually sold them.
Well, see, what was so neat about that program, I don't know if we have time to go over there where that car is today, but that program was really the first time Ford really said, this is Ford Motor Company.
Yeah.
We're here to kick your butt on the track.
Yeah.
And this is our promotion. And the way they got away with that was their slogan was performance and safety. Get the kids off the street, put them on the drag strip, and promote safety along with the performance and sell the heck out of the cars.
Well, you know, for the longest time, I'm sorry, all you performance freaks, when you did street racing, it gave all of us a bad name. Enthusiasts all got a bad name. Police getting in trouble with police losing your license, causing accidents. People died on the street. It's not the place to race. And by putting it on the racetrack where ambulances there, it's a controlled environment. People learn how to drive their cars. I think that was a smart thing.
I do too, and it worked well for Ford, I think, and that's why I always like the Ford drag team stuff.
Let's show them one of the coolest features in here, John.
Okay.
This trailer.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
With the Ohio George story, right? Come on over here. Let's take a look at this.
Let's take a look at that. Mike can't get over the fact that, you know, when you have something that pretty, do you have to hide it in a trailer?
Absolutely
And Bob
not.
Perkins said, no, you don't really have to.
How many accidents is this called as if you're driving down a street
You
with
must have
this?
caused a lot of people to swerve into your lane.
Well, the first time I bought this for the Hubert Black car when I was getting it finished.
Okay.
And being that those race cars don't have weather strips in all the places, they can't get wet.
Yeah.
So when I would take it to like a show, and it was like a Mustang anniversary show at Charlotte, if you're there for 5-6 days, you're going to get wet sometime. So I thought the clear trailer would be the idea. I saw one on the side of the interstate coming back from Ford Carlisle,
way.
and I looked up the place that made them, and I thought, boy, that'd be cool. And so that thing's kind of made a name for itself, just
Yes,
that
for
trailer.
sure.
A lot
One of my
people-
favorite memories ever
Yeah.
is seeing this.
And the Ohio George car, the way I got that car was when the guy that bought it from George Montgomery, Ralph Whitworth, when they got in trouble and they had to sell all those vehicles, it was offered back to the original owners at a percentage of what the price was. It was a lot reduced price, and George says, how would you like to own the red car? And I said, well, I'd love to own it, but I can't afford that car. He says, well, let me tell you what the price is, and it was like a half of what it was sold for, or even less than half. And he said, I can make the deal work for you. And I said, well, why doesn't Greg buy it? He says, well, we took all that money and put it in his account, and he's getting divorced. If we commingle that money, he's got to give up that money, half that money, so we want you to have the car. And we had cleaned up his 73 convertible that had a couple thousand miles on it. It had been Z-barred and helped him on his Boss 429. So George and I and Greg all got along good over the years, and so we made the deal on the car.
So awesome.
It's beyond awesome. And the fact that, you know, a lot of you that share your Mustang story, Bob and I, we have to say this, a lot of guys get a collectible Mustang, and when they get a divorce, the Mustang becomes a chess piece. You know, and because some divorcees look at it as you know, an asset financially, but the guys look at it as a piece of their heart. And they go to protect cars like that. If you have a Mustang story like that you want to share, and you don't mind, you know, airing out your ugly divorce, we'll take that Mustang story, won't we, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, every day.
Yes,
And
you know,
twice on Sundays.
Yeah, but having a race car in here, I mean, that's perfect. But there is a car here kind of stands out that's not really something that people associate with anything from the 70s or really a race car. But if you love Fords, you love having, say, some of the earliest cars ever. How did you wind up with this absolute stunning? Is this a rum runner? What is this?
That's a 39 standard coupe, and I got that from my best friend Jackie Jones.
Oh, Jackie Jones,
Wow.
another collection we just have to see. Yeah, his collection is unbelievable.
That car was in one family for 82 years.
80, you said 82?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. 82 years, they said. And they finally got the grandkids to sell the car. The car has 4,000 miles on it. Those are actually the original Ford tires it's sitting on, and it's 100% original
No
paint.
way is
Yeah.
that
It's got
possible.
4,400 miles on it.
Now, if you were not believing that Bob Perkins believes in originality, this is a rolling museum piece right here. This thing looks brand new.
How is it possible the tires would last that long?
Well, the spares, the original spare that it came on the car, but I heard about 20 years ago, they rounded up 4 new old stock tires and put on there.
Wow.
But,
Well, if you can keep
but
them out of the element.
The original tires, the one in the boots, the car was born with.
Wow.
And it's one that Dearborn, it's got some awards in the trunk there. And
As it should.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
since I don't know much about those, I always wanted an early V8 like that. I thought, well, it's like if you don't know what you're looking at, you better get one that nobody's ever messed with.
Right.
Well, one like that.
There was going to be a better one than that.
Well, a lot of enthusiasts from my brother's era, which was mostly the late 50s cars, grew up with the 57s, the 59s, the 60s. They love 39, 40 Fords. These cars are the standard deluxe or the deluxe coupes. Those were beautiful cars.
Yeah.
And that really, with the flathead, you could go places in those.
Oh yeah, they're a pretty cool car, and you lift up that back seat and you can see why they were moonshine runners.
Oh, yeah. And I think, Mike, if we can get down to Jackie Jones' shop, he has, honest to God, modified rum running cars that have just no business being on the highway. And to the point, I think, Bob, that they, even when they're fully loaded, you can't tell from the police looking at that they're say. I mean,
They had big Cadillac motors in them at the time, and
they could do 100 miles an hour.
he's got some of the coolest, not only the Mustangs, but all Fords, and he's got see, that's basically the first trip I took to see Jackie was in 1980, and that's when I looked at his 4 or 5 Mustangs he had at the time. Now he's probably got 75.
Yeah, he does.
They were just unrestored, untouched, and that gold Mach 1 we'll look at I got from him. He sold new, it has 4,000 miles on it. But that's what really got me, looking at his stuff, what really got me into that unrestored mentality.
Well, let's go check out that gold
Yeah.
Mach 1. Then, geez, I didn't know that Jackie. I've been to the shop a couple times, and I just can't get out of there, Bob. I cannot. You could stay at one car for so long. Well, wait till. Can you imagine if Mike Berardi had seen this drop top?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he loves the big horses.
Have you been to Mike Berardi's shop?
Mike Berardi, who's a former fields.
No, I've
You've
seen
heard of
all
him?
his stuff. I
Yeah.
know
He loves the big
So when
horse
you
cars.
come in for Woodward next year, we'll make that
We'll
happen
give you a
as well.
private tour of his. He loves these big horses and understands. He likes the big blocks, obviously, but this thing is absolutely stunning. Oh, and you even got, boy, I'll tell you what. Now these are a little harder to restore because the parts are harder to find. I understand.
Yeah, they are, and, but, my glue's coming off there, no, Jackie's dad sold this car brand new, and,
Oh, really?
the gal's name was Martha Hutchkins, and, she traded in a 70 Mach 1 on it, and they bought the 73 Mach, and they also got a 73 F100, and they drove the pickup truck, and this pretty much sat, and in 1980, she came in and told Jackie she was disappointed that it was dripping transmission fluid on her garage floor, that her garage floor was probably cleaner than his kitchen table. And she wasn't happy.
Oh, really?
And he says, well, what would you like me to do? And she says, how would you like to buy the car back? And he's, in 1980, 73 Mustang wasn't even
Yeah.
10 years old.
Right.
And she was quite a character, I guess, because when the car came in, she said, if it comes in with Firestone tires, I don't want it. It's got to have Goodyear. So he had to put 4 polyglass on it, and I had to round up the 4 Firestones.
yeah, the one that
The
came.
original, back in 81, though, it wasn't hard to find them, but the original spare was still the Firestone in the trunk.
Wow.
But that's the original window sticker. And then Jackie's mom pulled out all the invoices from Ford, the temporary price sheet and everything.
Yeah.
But this car has 4,400 miles on it. This is the only Mustang, and the Mustang Club of America has won the unrestored class, the thoroughbred class, and the trailer concourse class, all as an unrestored car.
Wow.
But it's the workmanship on this car. This was like, hey, this has got to be good because it's got the best workmanship and detail and amount of paint on the motor.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really,
Yeah.
really good work quality control on this car for some reason. And,
And they have it sold right out of Jackie's store, and then, something that he gets back, and then to see something come back like this. And she obviously took good care of it, even though did anybody tell her when you let a car sit for a long time, sometimes the transmissions will leak?
yeah, that's the thing. That's why I said that's because you don't drive it.
Yeah.
But I mean, she ordered the car right off the brochure. That's the brochure car.
Oh, yeah.
With the 3/4 vinyl roof, all that stuff they ordered it right off the
Oh,
brochure.
my God.
But
That's phenomenal.
that is really a neat car.
No, and
That was my first unrestored good Mustang.
and then from Jackie's, now,
Yeah.
you got another big horse. Now this baby, these, especially in the greens, I know, is Mike Berardi's this color green, do you know?
He
He just finished a restoration on
a couple, no, one of them he's got more is the lime,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, this car came out of Bloomer, Wisconsin. It was never dealer prepped. That's the original plastic that came on the
seats.
top.
Wow.
It
That's
has,
the original top plastic?
yep,
It's even got the buttons.
yep,
Oh, yeah.
2.8 miles on it.
2.8 miles.
The wheel covers are
Right
in the
now,
trunk.
2.8
Yeah.
miles?
Yeah, it's never been driven. When I heard about the car, another guy from Nashville had a 700-mile convertible he was showing in the Mustang Club, and it showed up in Mustang Monthly, and Don Nielsen called him and said, "I have you beat. I've got one that's never been driven." And so he says, "Why don't you come up and take a look at my car?" And I went up there, and it was on Christmas Eve day, and he said that this was an 82, and he said, "Ford's coming out with the convertible again." He said, "My kids tried to drive it, now my grandkids want to drive it." He said, "It's time for a new caretaker." And when I went up there, and here's this car sitting 5 feet above the ground on a wooden platform. They had drove it up there when it was brand new on 2x10 planks supported by wooden milk crates, and it's sitting up
To
on
get
its
it off the
perch.
ground.
To get it off the ground. Because this is in northern Wisconsin,
Yeah.
And so we made a deal on the car. That was on Christmas Eve day. And I said, I can't pay for it all right now because I just I had a blue one that had 144 miles on it. And I showed him pictures of that. And I said, I need a little bit of time to recoup from that. And I said, I'll probably sell that one to get yours.
Yeah.
And he says, well, when the snow's gone, come and get it. So I gave him a deposit on the car. We made the deal. And I said, I don't even want to see you drive it off that platform.
No, yeah.
But it sat up there all them years. And
Is this marking on there, original?
Yeah.
Or did you
yeah, no, nothing's ever been done with this car. And
That
he's got all the paperwork on everything. I mean, it's just full of. He tried to get the last car. This was built the last day of
Yeah.
production.
It was built the last day?
Yeah.
Look, Mike, see it
Yeah,
said
it's
that
still
in
got the
wipers?
plastic on the
And I love
wipers.
that the article in the magazine on it is titled "In the Wrapper."
Yeah.
It is in there.
And he said, now, don't think I ever drove it. He said, the bugs in the grill, it was the first car in the front of the car hauler on the
Oh,
top.
okay, the
So
car
it
hauler.
got a few bugs in it.
Yeah.
And
Talk about original.
that's why this was a little bit tore up, he
Yeah.
said too, but I put it back on there. You know, it's got the snaps, but after.
Yeah, isn't it crazy with the
50
snaps?
years-
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know they did that. So you're actually saying that the bugs could be original too?
Right. 50-year-old bugs.
Got original bugs to it.
I'm not lying that we didn't drive it, we never
Oh,
drove it. I
Bob.
had the transporter back right up to the building.
That's amazing. All right, let's wrap up with your first gens. You got a coupe and a fastback. We got to take a look at those. Yeah, let's go take a look. You know, Mikey, these cars, like you said, every car is a Mustang story. Every Mustang owner has a Mustang story.
Seems
Every
these
one of
stories
these
are a
ca-
little cooler than most.
These cars, I've never been to a brand new garage with brand new Mustangs in them when that they're 60 years old. That doesn't happen that often.
Exactly.
So you've got a 66 wire wheel covers. I mean, this thing is like, this looks brand new.
It is brand new. It has 56 miles on it. This came out of the Bob Mercer collection there in Nebraska, and never been dealer prepped. The wiper blades still have the plastic. All the invoices are on the windows. When I bought the car, it didn't have the wheel covers installed. He thought he was doing me a favor. He popped them on. He had
okay.
the box they were in.
Yeah.
But in the trunk, I had the separator paper cardboard that was
yeah.
in between them. And then there's a little bag with the valve stem extensions and another instruction sheet for the dealer how to install the wheel covers. So that's all in the trunk. But in the back window there, you can see the original MSO and the IBM card that they had to go to Omaha to order the car.
There's something about black with the dark red interiors.
Oh, yeah.
This thing's
The
stunning.
interior, see, it's pony interior.
Pony interior. the option with that.
You can just see how
Oh my gosh.
the pearl in the seat covers.
Yeah, they just can't make that anymore, Mike.
Right. And,
Of course, Mike is a Katzen interior guy now, but this is
thing's just brand
stunning.
new. It's still got like the 66 promotional stuff on the new seatbelt.
He's got the,
seat
yeah,
and
the little,
stuff.
the seatbelt card still on it. Manual transmission, get the wood wheel. This is a
And I
beautiful.
love that almost every single car that we've showed you here today has been featured in one of the magazines.
That's, well, they should be. They should be. So now, tell me about, you want to wind up with what I think, Bob, now, I mean, as much as you want to talk about the Boss 02s, the 69 Machs, the first gen 65, 66 fastbacks are becoming on titanium. I see on YouTube that people are taking coupes and trying to buy metal to turn them into fastbacks because these cars are so desired. What is this? Is this a Hypo car?
Yeah, that's a 66 289 Hypo. It has about the same miles as the price tag on when it was new. It has 3,000 something miles on it. It's a radial heater elite car, and it's original. Been painted on a little bit. Two brothers that lived in the Cleveland area worked at the Cleveland engine plant. The one brother ordered the black with the red interior, and the other brother red with black interior. And they street raced them a little bit by the Capitol up and down the main drag in Cleveland. And I got this car from a good friend of mine over there in Cleveland, one of the genuine first obsolete Ford parts guys. Ed Glass was his name, and his son I still deal with. He's a good guy. And he told us about this car and said it would never be for sale. And then we were out at Carlisle one time, Jim Coles and I, and he said, you know, Bob, I decided I'm going to sell you the black Hypo. We've got 3 kids, and we can't cut it in 3, and we're going to buy some property on the lake to park the motorhome. If you want the car, stop by on the way back. And then I got that from him. But I met him at the first MCA Grand National I ever went to in 1981.
Wow.
But that car is just brand new.
Well, yeah, and now I see the dealer, the roof card, take the reins for only $32.96.81. I'll tell you what, Bob, I will give you $3,500 right now.
Right. I know.
Not happening?
No, and it's the same price as on the window sticker.
Is it really?
Yeah, the
That's
window
what they
sticker.
let it go for.
Yeah, that's what the window sticker
This
was
is
on that.
phenomenal.
Add some zeros, Don, add some zeros.
I mean, come on. Well, it's not just this, Bob. Your cars are off the charts. They're phenomenal. But your memorabilia, we need a whole day to come back and walk through some of the cooler things you have, some of the unique stuff you have. And because I think the rest of the Mustang world needs to see this. You lived in that era where a lot of people just, they would throw that out. And now you have pieces of Ford history that Ford itself doesn't have a lot of this.
Yeah, it was kind of like the right place at the right time when I was looking for that stuff. I wasn't quite old enough to have one of these new,
Yeah.
but I liked them. And then when I started hunting the parts, that was the time when gas was high, muscle car stuff was in the dumpster.
They were parking them behind the barn
Yeah.
and buying my 76 Cobra 2s or the 4-cylinder Gias because they didn't care about HP, they cared about MPG.
Right. And so that made us the availability of the parts in the dealerships. It was just the right time to get involved with that. And we started out, Jim Coles and I, we'd go to dealerships. We'd leave with $300 a piece. We didn't have any money. If we would have had money, we could have really been dangerous. But we'd buy a little bit, come back, trade it off, and just keep building up. I just started from nothing, and it was the right time for this to take off.
Well, and I got to tell you, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this little walkthrough. But Mike, we talk about this a lot. You know, the timing of Bob's life, the fact that he had driven the thing that drives many of us, which was passion, and his commitment to the community to bring some of the, what do you call it, preservation of Mustang to life. This is what this hobby is all about. And Mike, I don't know if God blessed you when you called Bob and said, hey, can we roll in and blow up your day? But he said yes.
Yeah.
And that kind of separates a lot of guys we know in the hobby that, hey, no, I'm busy. They didn't want to share it with our
True enthusiast and passion, and it's all for our viewers, so everybody can see and enjoy something they might not be able to make it out to ever see in person.
Don't you think that sometime when Bob's got another couple hours he wants to kill, we can come back and look through some of this memorabilia?
Or, he mentioned that he might be coming to Detroit next year during Woodward, and I'd like to do some tours with him there. And we might be able to follow along with that and just get some reactions off of that as well.
I think that then instead of Mike Ray calling you and bothering you for a day, you call him and we'll make sure we'll show you the sites of the insider places
We'll
in
give you all
Detroit.
the VIP tours everywhere.
We'll take you to some of the collectors in there, but it's nothing like this. I hope you all enjoyed this trip to Perkins Restoration and the time shared with Bob Perkins himself. Bob, we can't thank you enough for spending your time on the Mustang Owners Podcast.
Well, thank you.
Oh.
Appreciate that you guys came.
Well, we can't wait to see more of this, and we're hoping to get you more. And as you know, we just want you to stop in and make sure you take a second to give us a like. The like will let the algorithm that is on YouTube share this content with other people that love Mustangs. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel, or maybe buying some really cool Mustang Owners Podcast merch, which Michael is aware. We want to make sure you enjoy the whole Mustang community experience with guys like Bob Perkins. And so until next time, we'll just have to catch you guys down the road.